Very warm welcome to the Saturday Tropical Outlook. We are getting very close to the end of the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season, but we still have got things to speak about. But before we get into that, a quick reminder, the European winter forecast for 2024-25 will be released. That will be Sunday next weekend at 7:30 live on YouTube. So I'm looking forward to delivering the 2024-25 winter forecast. It will be my 15th consecutive, and it should be a very interesting one indeed. So mark that on your calendar, on your diary, whatever. Hope to see you next weekend. But even before we get there, we do have the live stream tomorrow night, 7:30, and it'll be all things global, looking at the transition between mild and dry to colder and possible snowy, and also looking a little bit at the tropics. Also the La Nina, where it is struggling to develop as well. But looking at the global tropics, this is how things are looking as of early Saturday morning. We do have another super typhoon headed towards the Philippines. I believe this is the 6th tropical cyclone in a matter of weeks in this part of the world. It has been a very, very tough time for the folks here. We also have a tropical storm, once major, very powerful super typhoon Usagi, that is now moving up into the east of China. We also have a cyclone in the southern Indian Ocean to speak about. This looks like Becky is spinning away here, and we've obviously got the tropical storm Sara to speak about as well. In terms of the Philippines, this is the latest system to be moving in over the next several days here, bringing significant wind and rain. And unfortunately, it has been a very, very testing time indeed for the folks in this part of the West Pacific Basin. But we also have the Atlantic to contend with. Tropical Storm Sara is the only game in town at the moment. And while we've got the 50-60 mile per hour coastal winds around Nicaragua, Honduras, that's going to be moving into eastern Guatemala, Belize, even the southern Yucatan over the next several days. It is the slow movement of this system that is going to cause the significant 30 plus inches of rain locally. We've got obviously very mountainous terrain in this region of Central America, and with a strong area of high pressure to the north, that is stopping any kind of progress of this system moving through this region. So you get a tropical system of any nature stuck in place over a mountainous area like we have here, and you've got a major rainfall situation unfolding, and this could be another devastating hit to this region, a place that unfortunately has a long history with devastating high death systems. And the only one good measure would be that we don't have a monstrous hurricane, but a fairly weak tropical storm. The problem is even a weak tropical storm stuck over a given area for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you do obviously continue to see the heavy rainfall, and that orographic lift just kind of exaggerates the rainfall also. And you can see here, this is off the NHC website, the projection of 30 plus inches of rain falling, especially over the high mountains near the north coast of Honduras in particular. But we've got a wider area in excess of 20 inches of rain falling, and that stretches anywhere from Honduras up into parts of Belize, and even the eastern coastal strip of the Yucatan, stretching from the border of Belize up to Quintana Roo, and areas just to the south of around Akumal and Cozumel is an area of concern with regards to rainfall in excess of 18 inches of rainfall in the space of 24 to 48 hours. Looking at the system on IR imagery, there isn't a great deal of organisation at all. Thankfully, this system did not stay out over the 29 to 30 Celsius water temperatures that go deep below the surface. The actual circulation itself, the centre, has been hugging the coastline of Nicaragua over recent days, and that has been stopping the system from gaining any kind of organisation. Remember, back a few days ago, there was concerns of a system developing to major hurricane status. This system is never going to become a hurricane, and in fact, as we progress through the course of this weekend and into the early portions of next week, as the centre and the circulation rubs up against the frictional of the mountains here, I do expect to see this system to completely fall apart, potentially before it ever reaches the Gulf of Mexico, which in some aspects is good news for Florida, for the southern United States, but it's bad news at the same time for these areas of Central America, where we're going to see the exceptional rainfall as a consequence. Looking at other aspects to consider here, we're going to look at the NHC. We've not got anything to speak about with the exceptions of Sara, as is the case during the month of November. You do get sometimes these little pop-up features that develop possibly out in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes we get a couple of fronts that move off the United States coastline. There can be some sort of a subtropical development from that, but you tend to find increased dry air, increase in shear, and the water temperatures, though, would potentially sustain upper end tropical storm or low end hurricane. When you've got 28 Celsius water temperatures, you don't tend to get development or intensification of systems during the month of November. Water temperatures and the ocean heat content is rather limited, but also the atmosphere tends to be very, very restrictive as well. When you've got the increased shear, you tend to have very strong winds in the mid and upper levels blowing out of the west or southwest over the Gulf of Mexico at this time of the year. But this has been really a major saving grace, the fact that the centre of circulation has stayed pretty much along the coast of Nicaragua and the north coast of Honduras. Had that centre been 50 miles offshore, with a lack of wind shear, lack of dry air, and that high ocean heat content, we probably would have been dealing with a Cat 3 hurricane as opposed to a low-end tropical storm. But again, like I've already emphasized, the bad news is that this region of the world is getting absolutely hammered by exceptional rainfall, flooding, and also landslides is a major problem in this part of the world, and that has led to significant death tolls in the past. So looking at the ECMWF, you can see as we play through the next wee while or so, we've got very little to speak about really. There is this feature, if we get back to the current period, there is this feature here that developed along a frontal system that they may have some sort of subtropical characteristics, nothing fully tropical by any stretch, but over relatively warm waters here and a reasonable environment, there is some tropical properties associated with this feature, but nonetheless that is going to be no real issue apart from wind and rain around the island of Bermuda, but nothing to be of concern. There's Sara stuck over the Central American land mass. The ECMWF tends to completely dissipate this before it ever reaches the western Gulf of Mexico. Play through the loop. Some of the remnants of that feature may get caught up with a frontal system moving eastwards across the United States. That may flare up some enhanced rain and thunderstorm activity over Louisiana, Mississippi into Alabama, but that is pretty much it. And nothing really to speak about, thankfully, over the MDR, the Caribbean, or the Gulf of Mexico as we play through essentially the remainder of November here. The MJO is now moving firmly more into the Indian Ocean. We're going to start to see subsidence returning to the Western Atlantic Basin, I think, over the next week to 10 days or so. So the question mark will be, is that the end of the 2024 season, ending with Sara, with 3 names to go? We've got Tony that would be up next. Is that going to develop? There is always a small possibility that we may still see some spin-up taking place over the next 2 or 3 weeks here. You can sometimes get that even in the month of December. Still got pretty warm sea surface temperatures, and when you get that little spin-up, they can lead to development. But overall, I think it looks as if we are starting to slowly but surely see this season kind of end. So that would be obviously very good news indeed. So, like I said, stay tuned for the tropical, not the tropical, the the live stream tomorrow night at 7:30, looking at all things global weather. We're going to be looking at the snow and cold prospects for the UK and Western Europe in that live stream tomorrow. I was going to do a brief European outlook, but I think I covered enough in yesterday's European outlook that I'm going to leave it at that for today, and then we'll revisit that tomorrow night on the live. So I hope you can join me for that. We can discuss that. Leave a comment. I'll answer questions and give shout outs, etc. etc. So enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you tomorrow night with the live stream. Bye for now.